I'm planting a tree. Come on. Autumn is usually the best time for planting fruit trees because there is more humidity than in spring, but still enough time before frost sets in. But spring is also okay for most trees as well. Here is what I need. Plus, of course, a tree and some compost. I'll be placing this tree, strangely, right here in the middle of our beds. And in case you didn't notice, our beds are these things you actually do not see here yet, but at least here and there are already growing some crops. So this tree will mark the center of our garden, and here it certainly has enough room to grow. With tall trees like this, the branches starting about head high, as much as 10 meters distance to other trees are recommended. It helps them dry off quickly and promotes a microclimate, which makes it difficult for fungi to do some tree hopping. Over the past 2 years, we planted almost 20 fruit trees here, from apples, plums, quinces to walnuts and many more. I also took some courses on the subject, but I'm not a trained gardener and do not have a ton of experience, so I'm definitely no pro. Most of our trees are located on the property's north side, so they don't cast a shadow onto our beds. But with this tree I want to do the exact opposite. It's going to be a sour cherry tree, rather slim in appearance, and I will place it directly south of these beds. This way it will help our crops not to get a sunburn in the intense midday sun, but still leaves them enough sunlight. Yeah, that's right, we deliberately shadow our crops. This is only quite new of a recommendation for a garden layout due to climate change. We noticed ourselves that some crops are growing better when not constantly exposed to full sun, and apart from that, a tree always makes the place more agreeable with its positive impact on wind, humidity and temperature. That's a big one. The hole only needs to be so big that the tree's roots comfortably fit inside. Actually, I will make the hole a lot bigger though, because I also want to fit in a wire mesh for protection. Yeah. Yeah, we've got a lot of voles, not moles, which would be great actually, for they would fight the voles. The voles, however, they love the taste of fresh and young fruit tree roots. This would soon leave the tree devoid of water and nutrients, and so I somehow have to spoil their party. With the wire mesh, I make sure that the mesh size is 13 millimeters at most, so that not even little voles can get through, and that the mesh is zinc coated so it won't rust as fast. There is a lot of debating whether the zinc coating is necessary, and the bottom line is, it depends. For example, on how many voles there are, how strong the tree and how acidic the soil is. A low pH value, so an acidic soil, is great for growing blueberries, but bad for uncoated wire mesh, which can dissolve completely within no more than 1 year. We had our soil tested, it's just below neutral, so a little acidic, which is why I'm going with the zinc coated one. I also tried to find out if the zinc which will be released over time into the soil is harmful in any way, but according to the only study I found on the subject, that's not the case. Stainless steel, which would be more expensive as a mesh material, could though cause some health problems when dissolving because of compounds like chrome and molybdenum in it, but I found it very hard to find serious studies about that as well. The diameter is about 60 centimeters, the mesh will form a circle, so 60 times pi is about 180, plus 1 foot of fear that it will be too little is about 2 meters. The only grid I have at hand right now is 8 millimeters mesh size, so I'm a little afraid that bigger roots cannot get through, which is why I'm making the hole a lot wider. This way the tree hopefully has enough room for root development before the mesh dissolves, which with zinc coated one will happen within about 5 to 10 years. Before the mesh I still have to insert a post for the tree to hold on to. This post will remain in the soil for about 3 years directly along the tree roots, so I make sure not to use anything that could harm or poison the tree. Untreated wood is a very good choice, but it's prone to decay. Hereabout usually Robinia, that is locust, is used for tree or fence posts because it's very durable even when being in contact with moist soil all the time. In hardware stores, though, you will mostly find pressure-impregnated wood as tree posts. This is soft wood like spruce or fir, which is way cheaper, treated with a synthetical brine containing biocides, which is injected into the wood under high pressure and should kill off wood-eating pests. The effects of pressure-impregnated wood on humans is debated, but it's regularly considered likely to cause cancer, so it's definitely nothing I want to have in my soil or near the roots. I don't have Robinia at hand, so I will try my luck with this thick but unprotected piece of spruce. It will decay fast, but given the diameter, it will still last some time. Using one of these is okay, using 2 or 3 would be even better. We mainly have west wind here, that is wind from west to east, so I put the post on the west side of the tree. If you don't know your main wind direction, it's probably west if you're living on the northern hemisphere, but east if you live south of the equator. This is because air from higher pressure areas, usually located near the equator, are moving towards the poles, so north or south, but are being deflected sideways by the Coriolis force. This is the same force that would, for example, deflect a ball being thrown from a merry-go-round, at least from the thrower's perspective. The post should be about a foot from the tree, and about a third of it should eventually be in the ground for good stability. It also should reach to right below the crown of the tree. I will just cut it to length when the tree is about to be set in. The mesh now forms a tube, but still without a bottom. Voles allegedly don't go deeper than half a meter, which is about the depth of this hole, but I want to be safe and also protect the roots from underneath. It does not have to be too pretty, just so the voles know where to get through. I'm filling up the hole with humus, but the dugwood soil is usually good as well. A little compost soil mixed in gives the tree an easier start into his new home. Okay, looks good. Now everything I need is a tree. With bare-rooted trees like this, the roots should be submerged for about 1 day in advance to give them a chance to soak themselves full of water. Before putting the tree in, I cut the root tops using a clean tool like this. Just shorten them a bit to encourage the roots to quickly grow again. By the way, most fruit trees you can buy are grafted. That means they have a rootstock from one variety, which determines the growth of the tree, and a scion on top of another, which makes for the fruits. It's important that the spot of the grafting, that is where the rootstock and scion meet, is roughly 10 centimeters, a palm's width above the ground. Shaking, wobbling and slightly lifting the tree does a good job of preventing air bubbles and making sure that the roots have good contact with the soil. A small trench around facilitates watering. I also carefully press down on the soil to get it compact, but still loose enough to allow oxygen to get to the roots. The tree shall not be embedded deeper than it was before. You can usually see the former ground level from the color change on the tree stem. Now for tying up. I think it's best to use some organic and natural material like hemp or jute or cocoa, because the string will be exposed to sun and weather, and especially synthetic stuff is prone to decay in ultraviolet light, spreading microplastics, so I definitely go for something biodegradable. Tying up is necessary because the crown moved by the wind acts like a lever and would cause the newly formed fine tree roots to lose soil contact. These fine tree roots are very important though for the tree, not only for providing it with water, but mainly for its nutrient supply. A tree is actually trading sugars, which it produces by photosynthesis, for nutrients, which it gets from soil bacteria. So gathering a lot of bacteria around its roots is crucial for the tree to grow and stay healthy. With this figure of 8, I make sure that the loop on the stem is still somewhat loose, so that the tree can grow unhindered. Now the tree is at least as thirsty as I am. So right after planting, it needs at least 1 can of water to literally wash the soil to its roots and make the tree and ground get to know each other. What's still left to do? Most trees need a pruning to help its development. How and when depends on the fruit, the age and the mood of the expert you ask. I took courses in pruning fruit trees and still feel like I don't have a clue, but for a particular tree you will find enough information online not to mess it up completely. This one has just been pruned at the tree nursery, so I'm out of the wood. Also keep the area around the stem free from grass, because that would leave hardly any water for the tree. You can plant cover crops or mulch it, or simply take out the weeds. A German saying goes something like this: if the world would end tomorrow, I would still plant an apple tree today. I'm not too sure about that, but I know that planting a tree is fun and feasible, and that there certainly should be more trees in the world, especially delicious ones like that. So feel free to try yourself. It's great.